In the last few hours, President Trump has signed an executive order extending the tariff truce with China. During a news conference, he said he's been dealing very nicely with Chinese President Xi. It's critical to business, this. Trade between the two countries has come to a virtual halt before the original truce took effect. The uncertainty is making it difficult for everybody to understand. Flexport now offers a free tool on its website to help businesses calculate their costs. Ryan Petersen is the Chief Executive of Supply Chain Logistics Flexport. Always good to see you, sir. Right, well, here we go. I decided to put video games, consoles, tables, including pinball, blah, 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 toys. I've got the HTS code, shipment value, 10 million, country of origin, China, entry date is near Christmas, and the tariff, my goodness, duty rate is 61.5%. Extraordinary. I mean,
well, I should know. You can't predict the future, so I don't know what the future date. You put in near Christmas, we'll find out what it really is when that comes around. So,
but this is as it looks at the moment. Let's talk about that. The ground has settled. We know where most countries are, which, although that might not be brilliant in terms of the individual exporter or importer, at least there's an element of certainty. Is that right?
There's more certainty than there was in the last, 60 days or so. But I still think there's probably a fair amount of wiggle room on some of these things. I mean, looking at India, where it's currently, you're paying a higher rate to import from India than from China, which I don't know. I don't really think that's where it settles. So there's probably some movement that happens. But by and large, yes, companies are feeling more able to plan, which was the biggest problem that they had, even higher than duties being high, it's just really hard to figure out how you should react.
And what do you think is now who is paying the tariff? We're getting an average tariff of anywhere of around 17 to 19%, sometimes a bit more, sometimes a bit less. But who's paying it? Who's ultimately eating it?
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be a balance between the importer and the exporter, and then ultimately it will flow through to the consumer through higher prices. There are cases where the exporter pays the tariff. Actually, it's called a foreign importer of record, and it's one of the biggest sort of angles in all of this is for a foreign company that doesn't have any LLC or entity in the United States can still import goods to the United States. They pay the duties in that case. About 60% of all the sellers on Amazon are such companies. So there are a lot of cases where that is the case. That said, at the end of the day, there's only a couple things that can happen. Either the companies make less money or the prices go up for the consumers. And we all know what companies are going to choose when given the choice.
Right, but until now, there's been a sort of an unwritten understanding that the companies are, until they got to a certain point, they were prepared to eat it. Now we're starting to see more companies put the toe in the water of saying, no, we are going to pass this on. I suppose hunting in a herd, there's safety in numbers. Do you expect more companies to do that?
Yeah, and I think it's also partly points back to what you were saying earlier about certainty. I mean, if you thought these tariffs were super temporary, then you probably don't want to change your pricing strategy, which is a bit longer term than that. Now that it's started to settle and you get a better picture for where things are going to land, I think more companies are comfortable. There's also an element of like, hey, wait, if you're an apparel company, for example, wait till the next season's line comes along and raise prices then rather than doing it mid-season. But you are seeing prices go up, especially in the e-com space, in D2C, direct-to-consumer e-com.
And this de minimis, this loss of de minimis, I mean, I was reading your note about the options available post de minimis going. They're all bureaucratic nightmares for relatively small sums of money.
I mean, it depends on the company, like how big of a deal it is and how big of a sum it is. But to give you a sense, about 30% of all of the top e-commerce merchants were using this. Some people call it a loophole. I mean, it was just the regulations, how they're written, but it allowed you to fulfill from overseas and ship it direct to consumer in the U.S. And that was especially true, famously, it's these big Chinese e-com brands, Shein and Temu, but also regular e-com brands that you wouldn't think of were shipping out of Tijuana, Mexico, and other parts of Canada, Mexico, direct to your house from overseas to avoid tariffs. Some of these brands, it's millions and millions of dollars, and these aren't massive companies, so it can be a really big difference. That's gone away now, effective August 29th.
All right.
That will end. So these companies are in a nimble to put fulfillment in the US.
I'm grateful, sir. We'll talk more as you have to battle on towards Christmas. Thank you very much for joining us. I'm grateful. Thank you.